All right, welcome to today's DiSCourse seminar. My name is Justus Biada. I'm the head of the Digital Science Center. I'm happy to introduce to you Nicola Brocca, who is a senior postdoc at the Department of Subject-Specific Education here at the University of Innsbruck. He originally studied communication science at the University of Padua and already moved around quite a bit, then earned his doctorate at the University of Heidelberg in linguistics of Romance languages, and his research is about technology in language instruction, both as a tool and looking at consequences of technology for language instruction. Right, without any further ado, well, the floor is not quite yours because first I want to announce that this presentation will be recorded. But afterwards, we'll have a question and answer session that will not be recorded. So you're free to ask almost anything you like. And feel also free to post questions into the chat if you're watching this online. And then we will get to those also after the talk.
Thank you very much for the presentation. And today I will present just some insights from pragmatics and teaching about large language models and language education. Looking around for a review of the literature about the large language model and education, you will meet a recent paper by Wong and other, collecting a lot of more than 200 titles, and some of them are also dealing with language and how large language model can have an impact in language education. However, all of these papers don't really have empirical background. They just present what large language model can potentially do in education, but they never try to experiment the effect in a real class. Indeed, there are a bunch of problems when large language models come into classes. Especially because the success of large language model pose some controversial question amongst educators. The risk fostering over-reliance, which can hinder learning and reflection, risk outsourcing essential learning skills, can potentially lead to de-skilling and reduced autonomy. So while shift in essential skills are natural with new tools, care must be taken to identify and preserve critical skill for future expertise. So the question is, which skill can be then really relevant also to preserve in education? And then we can see around some literature of some institution. For example, a recent impulse paper written by the Kultusministerkonferenz, or the Assembly of the Education Ministry in Germany, proposed some of such skills: source evaluation, examination and reflection, content knowledge and prompt tuning, self-regulation skills, and so on. Interesting skills. A not so recent paper, just before the introduction of ChatGPT and other other large language model that became very popular, a paper by the OECD show as a relevant skill for education, creativity and critical thinking, as well as develop students' education in the same way, in the same path as technical developments. They also present skills for education according different jobs, different emerging jobs. For example, critical thinking, complex problem solving, inductive reasoning, and so on. So very specific skills. Now I do my proposal for the skill that we also should carry on, and I will investigate that today. My skill that I would like to focus based ground on the need for understanding the manipulative potential of large language models. And I will present my argumentation based on an exploration of the capability of large language models to reproduce political speeches, and also a teaching intervention, to raise awareness about manipulation potentials. There are rising concern regarding the manipulative use of large language models, such as ChatGPT, but a lot of other bots, for spreading fake news and disinformation. Recent large language model may maximize benefits of propagandists in terms of text quality and reach, and distinguish a text created with a large language model of a text produced by human is almost impossible, both by human itself and machine alike. Now we are interested in the manipulation. Manipulation is a big phenomenon, cannot really be investigated just with linguistics. We need also psychology, we need emic perspective, but we focus in a linguistic point of manipulation. One of these is presupposition. So presupposition is a normal tool in normal communication. We need presupposing information for reason of language economy. For example, I can say my grandfather wrote a book about the Battle of Lepanto, and I am presupposing some content. For example, that I have a grandfather and that in Lepanto there was a battle. So very simple thing that I don't have to specify every time. So we have a common ground of knowledge that I have a grandfather and that Lepanto was a place where there was a battle. However, we use a lot of presupposition also for political campaign. For example, Make America Great Again contained the presupposition that American was great before. But such information is not as obvious as I have a Greek father. So this information is questionable. And information covered by presuppositions may be hard to be challenged, may be hard to be asked. So why? What do you really mean? Are you considering disemployment? No, you don't ask that. Yeah? You just say America was great before. Okay, America make America great again, without to think too much about this. So a lot of information transmitted by presupposition can pass unnoticed. And presupposition are also a trait of linguistic, which is interesting for didactics because is triggered by a lexical item. In this case, the lexical item is the iterative adverbs again. There is a lot of other triggers, like definite descriptions, like the definite article. In this part of a speech by Giorgia Meloni, we will smash the Euro monster. Or in this statement by Macron, start building in European power. You can find the original version below. So in this case, definite description and the change of state verb presuppose an information. So the existence of an Euro monster, or that building means that now there is still not an European power. Because in this case, I don't have to build it. So research questions are, how similar are chatbots like ChatGPT 4 and true politician about in the using of presuppositions. So, and we will broken down this question into two sub-questions: the frequency of presuppositions and their triggers, and which partners can we recognize in politicians' speeches and ChatGPT speeches. To do so, we created, so it's my research team and I created two corpora, one built of politician speeches and one of ChatGPT generated text. The politician speeches are taking out four politicians, two French politicians, Emmanuel Macron and Marine Le Pen, and two Italian politicians, Ellis Schlein and Giorgia Meloni. The corpus contains speeches between 2018, 2023, and 2021, 2022 for the French politician. And the context are rallies preceding the European elections in 2019 or the French presidential election 2022, as well as speeches to party assembly. The main discourse topics are Europe and immigration. So we selected politicians from opposite political views to have a large spectrum of topics and positions. This is the corpus, how we generate the corpus by ChatGPT. So we have tried to be as specific as possible, giving the realistic context and a few lines of the true speech ChatGPT supposed to be to reproduce. And we also give other relevant parameters that we want to include in the speech. And first, we use also a persona pattern. So using to asking ChatGPT to think, to simulate, imagine to be a politician. So finally, this is what our corpus look like. We have 16 texts in total. The politician speeches are longer than ChatGPT counterpart. And we wanted to keep the corpus of politician a little bit bigger because we imagine to be less standardized than the ChatGPT one. So what analysis say us? So we can see now the difference between the distribution of presupposition. PMP is the short term for possible manipulation presupposition, because we didn't select all presupposition, but just that one that can be used for possible manipulative goals. And we see that ChatGPT texts contain generally more presupposition than politicians' texts. If we look to the triggers that vehiculates this potentially manipulative presuppositions, we can see that in both corpora there are two triggers that are associated to PMPs, which are change of state verbs, so like raise up or build, and definite description, this, so the Euromonster or these liars, these lies also. So interestingly, definite description is the most common trigger in the politician data, while change of state verbs is much more common in ChatGPT texts. So, resuming our findings, the frequency of potentially manipulative presupposition is higher in ChatGPT generated text than in politician speeches. And the preferred triggers are considerable differ. Politicians prefer definite description, and true politicians prefer change of state verbs. So we are now looking at some partners, and we are focusing on this trigger, definite description and change of state verbs. Once again, these are an example of change of state verbs that we find very, which are much popular in ChatGPT generated text. So I say before, defend, protect, but also build are part of this verb. And we see that normally this verb build a collocation. So the existence of a verb with a noun object noun. In this case, for example, to defend is mostly collocate with a value or an open Europe, asylum right, or the border. And the same verbs are used by all politicians by ChatGPT, by all languages. So the same schema is generalized over language borders and over politicians' vision. What is changing in this corpus that ChatGPT use the verb, use the same verbs, but change the object. So for example, left wings politician in ChatGPT use more as object in Open Europe or the asylum right. So we will protect, we will defend the asylum right, while the right wings politician use defend the value or the defend the borders, and so on for a lot of other change of state verbs. And the quantity of such verbs is higher in ChatGPT text, generated text, than in true politician text. So this is a table about this distribution. Okay. What's about definite description? We see here some example of definite description. So you know already the Euromonster here, but we can also mention other example. For example, ERRS, so a crasi between European Union and URSS by Marie Le Pen. O la sua incapacità, his inability, il vostro decreto inumano, your inhuman decree, and so on. So why are change of state verbs so common in ChatGPT data, and why are definite description so common in politician data? Well, it's something to do with the function why this linguistic tool are used. Definite description is mostly used for attack, criticism. So here, the Euromonster is definitely an attack to European Union. And change of state verbs are mostly used to spread a slogan. So we can think that architecture feature of large language model come into play, because ChatGPT has a training that guardrail message of criticism and offense. So it is more triggered to avoid definite description, But so ChatGPT recognized such a structure like change of state verbs as a typical for political speeches and reproduce this structure among all the prototypical political speech in all politicians in all languages. So now we come to some educational transfer to that findings. The quality and quality of possible manipulative presupposition differs between human-generated and large language model-generated speeches. However, no difference can be really observed by a naked eye. Citizens should be aware that attempts of manipulation can occur. Citizens should be empowered to autonomously recognize manipulation attempts and make informed decisions. So my research team and I developed plan a school intervention. But first of this school intervention, we developed material and we led a trial. We asked two teachers to evaluate such school materials. In these materials, we focus on PNPs, and we selected speeches from politicians, social media, and advertisements. And we construct some activities according to this approach that we call it ECI, so implicit content extraction. This approach provides 3 steps, so recognizing of implicit messages in a text, transform the implicit message into assertions, and then analyze the assertion. So, for example, you transform "Make America Great Again." Okay, the assertion is American was better before. Okay, do you really agree? Do you think that is a fact? Why? And so on. An example can be also found here, an example of this material. So there is there were some tweets dealing with Greta Thunberg and some environment issues, and students has to underline the triggers, prepositional triggers, and to rewrite overtly the information that is expressed implicitly, and so on. So the data that we have till now, they are not data of students, are data of teachers. We asked 10 teachers to evaluate this material. We asked them, how would you teach with this material? So what do you, how do you go on in your class if you would adapt this material? And then we analyze the interviews according to inductive categories, according Inhalt analysis or content analysis, and the result that that the activity is also useful also in a foreign language lesson, English in this case, and it is especially feasible with advertisement, while politician speech and social media are more difficult to analyze. So the suggestion that we got from our teachers' interview are that ECI is a pedagogical approach, should be assessed with multiple steps with increasing difficulties. So the question we have in the beginning was which skills remain relevant? And today we focused on understanding the manipulative potential of large language models. And one skill that we come out after this result at the text analysis for media literacy can be very useful as a skill for a technological developer. However, many other skills are into analysis. For example, I didn't speak today of other study that I am conducting with colleagues of mine. For example, how to take advantage of large language model for learning. And one skill that we should provide also in a language lesson is prompting, how to formulate a right prompt, given the fact that prompting is not a computational ability, but especially a linguistic task. And also, how can we learn a new language given data from large language models? Also important is how to evaluate the situative appropriateness of the output of ChatGPT. So when we ask ChatGPT to provide output for a real situation, for a real communicative task, we should provide students to be aware that not everything really, or that they should adapt what ChatGPT suggests to the real context. And also how to use ChatGPT to, or other large language model to evaluate the scientific information online. And about that, in the Department of Subject-Specific Education, we are developing a project about meta-scientific literacy. So thank you very much. I'm open now for any questions.